Hello and salam again. Welcome to our regular update of Room to News. My name is Mulki Mohamed, and in this edition, I am glad to present a special conversation. With me here today are two highly valued women in our county of King and beyond. I would like to start off with my colleague Julie to first introduce herself and welcome the candidate Shukri to the forum.
Hi, my name is Julie Pham. I have a consulting practice called Curiosity Based. My family also owns Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in Washington. Super excited to be introducing and welcoming Shukri Olow, who is running for King County Council member. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much, Mulki, as well, and to the listeners of Runta News. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so good to see you again, and thank you for joining us in our conversation. Can you please start off by just briefly describing yourself and what your key priorities would be for running, along with the agenda on which your platform is based?
Great. Thank you for that question, Mulki. My name is Shukri, and it means thankful in Arabic. I am a mother, a community organizer, a doctoral candidate, and a candidate for King County Council District 5. I often tell people that I wear a number of hijabs in community. Today I'm wearing a blue hijab. I am running for King County Council District 5, which covers 7 cities in South King County, including the cities of Kent, where I grew up, SeaTac, Tukwila, Berrien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, and Renton. Because I'm not a politician, I'm a community organizer. I announced my campaign back in September of last year with the intent to co-design the platforms with community. And since then, after meeting with over 300 people, I've heard 4 key areas for community investment. 1, public health and human services, including mental health supports and affordable childcare. 2, affordable housing as a human right, because I'm also a product of South King County's public housing. I think we need to invest in safe shelters for everyone in our community. 3, being able to bend our legal system toward justice. And finally, supporting workers and small businesses in our community.
As you mentioned, District 5 is quite large and spread out, and there are many people there who haven't heard of your name. How are you going to gain their support and their vote?
Thank you for that question, Julie. District 5 is an incredibly dynamic district. It is a district where many of our communities have come home to. Those of us who've been displaced from areas like Seattle have resettled in this district, finding an environment where they can build community and eventually thrive. I think actually a number of people have heard of me. My background is in the human services field, and so I've spent time working in South King County on issues of housing, on education, on affordable childcare. And now I work at the county supporting the youth development strategy of this initiative at King County. And a number of our grantees are doing incredible work in South King County. And so some people know my name and have been incredibly supportive thus far of the campaign. And I look forward to meeting the folks that have not had the pleasure to connect with and talking to them about the issues, talking to them about who I am as a person, my values, our community's values around family and community and the power to dream for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
South King County also hosts a large BIPOC community who may not share similar concerns. Some of them may not choose to follow in the direction you may be going. How can you address all their concerns and unite them behind you?
Yeah, great question. And it's something that I think a lot about because our community is incredibly diverse, incredibly dynamic, and I want to be able to lead every single member in our district and center their issues and their voices as well as their priorities. I'm committed to reaching out to every member in our district, talking to them about the issues that we care about, that our community cares about, that the over 300 people that I've been in conversation care about, including housing, childcare. As a parent, I see that issue firsthand and understand the challenges that many of our families are facing prior to COVID, but also because of COVID. And I hope to be able to talk to folks about the issues and come together to build a stronger community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So 2020 has been a chaotic year. Unemployment, homelessness are at a record high, and communities of color are being disproportionately affected. What are you going to do to address these challenges?
Great question. Thank you, Julie. I mean, I think it's important to sort of daylight that our communities were struggling pre-COVID. When we look at some of the data and outcomes, especially in places like South King County, in Kent or SeaTac or in Tukwila, we're seeing high rates of COVID. We're seeing a disproportionate impact in terms of policing issues, in terms of access to affordable housing, in terms of access to healthcare. And this was an issue that many of our community members sort of struggled with pre-COVID, but obviously COVID has exacerbated this issue. One of my commitments on this campaign and beyond, and especially in terms of what I've done in community, is to be able to talk to people, have a deeper understanding of some of the issues that they care about, be able to lift that wisdom and that feedback and help inform the policies that we hope to come up with. And so one of the things that I've heard, especially around the issue of housing from community thus far, is to be able to understand what is the sort of inventory that is available, what properties or lands or spaces does the county own right now, to be able to then think about building affordable housing and different types of housing options for our community. I've also heard this need to invest in some of the gap areas. And so, for example, vouchers or Section 8 vouchers or other voucher types, especially, we've seen the impacts of the former occupant of the White House and some of the resources that have been shifted or diminished because of that administration. And so being able to support Section 8 vouchers or other type of vouchers for our community, especially those who've been disproportionately impacted, is another area that I've heard our community talk about. And finally, I think an area that we are doing well, that the county is actually doing really well on in light of COVID, is being able to come up with protections, both for tenants, things like rental assistance, but also our property owners who might be struggling.
So schools and businesses are still closed. Families are struggling with their personal dilemmas and also with prioritizing. And what this pandemic has highlighted is the huge digital divide. There's a lack of computer equipment, of internet services. What will you do to address these inequities?
That's a great question. And I am hoping that it's a we effort and not a me effort. And one of the things that I want you all to know is that as a parent, I've also had that struggle myself. We have 2 children who are in the Kent School District who are not on technology pre-COVID. We had to figure out, how do you turn on a laptop? I mean, they knew how to turn on the laptop because I think, this generation of children are a lot smarter than previous generations. But, now they're doing PowerPoint presentations in 3rd grade. And so I had that struggle as a parent trying to navigate this new learning environment for our children. But I also know that our community is incredibly resilient and has been able to come together in partnership and collaborate on some of these issues. I also know that there are incredible community-based organizations who are doing great work in our community and making sure that there's access to technology, to the internet, and that families are getting the additional supports that they need if they're struggling. And so we need to be able to invest in these organizations and cover the gaps that currently exist in the system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Juvenile justice reform was greatly welcomed by many communities, especially by African Americans and East Africans who were disproportionately victimized by the system. For you, what is next after the reform? Do you have in mind any programs that would invest in those communities, especially the youth?
Yeah, great question, Mulki. I mean, I think, after the reform assumes that we've already been able to get to a place where we do have reform. We need to be able to kind of look at what this landscape looks like right now, because I don't think we've arrived, right? Institutional racism is present in a lot of the systems, be it in economics or access to childcare or in housing or in policing, right? And so we're not there yet, but I do believe that there are opportunities to reinvest in community-based organizations who are doing prevention work and promotion work. And the initiative that I work on, the Best Starts for Kids initiative, is an example of that, something that could be invested in, and to make sure that young people in our community have access to resources that are centering their racial identity and who they are, but are also helping them to see their potential, right? And so I think we need to divest from the systems that continue to harm our community and reinvest in organizations that will help us get to collective liberation.
Thank you.
So, the question that you've been waiting for, that we've all been waiting for actually, is can you tell our communities why you are the right candidate to support, to vote for District 5 King County Council member?
Thank you so much, Julie, for that question. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I mean, I love this question so much, and I think about it often. I tell folks that I am a product of our community. I'm a product of South King County and grew up in this community, was raised by a Black mother who was a widow raising 3 children by herself, been able to access different systems, and now on this other side of the work, wanting to serve my community, guided by my faith and a desire to be in service. I mean, I am running because, you know, I think lived experience is important. You know, I grew up in poverty, I grew up in public housing. I know these issues because I've lived it myself, and many of our community members struggle, you know, through these issues themselves. I'm running because I think it's important that all of our children see themselves in spaces of belonging, right? That they too can dream to run for office. And finally, I'm running because, you know, the incumbent has served our community well for 19 years. And it is time for bold and innovative ideas. And it is time to bring the perspective of new leaders and hopefully have the opportunity to get all of us to do better, to be better, because ultimately we all do well when we're all better off. And I hope to be able to serve in that capacity.
Thank you for listening. Please make sure to share, like, subscribe to Runta News channel at YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.